Donald Trump spoke at a couple of different rallies over the weekend, and I know it's kind of strange to keep on going over these rallies considering that he says nearly the same thing at every single one. But I do think it's important that we do not let people forget about the absolute insanity that comes out of Trump's mouth on a regular basis. We should be calling this stuff out every time we see it, no matter how repetitive it may be. People need to know that Donald Trump is not fit to be president. He has no business being anywhere near the White House again. So I will continue to cover these rallies, no matter how repetitive they may be. But to kick things off, let's go ahead and look at Trump actually telling on himself a little bit. We always say that every accusation from a Republican is a confession, and this holds true with Trump as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at him actually saying that criminals don't change.
He liked to say that he did something with a social experiment. A criminal is a criminal, and they generally stay a criminal, and we don't have time to figure it out.
So like I said, I'm pretty sure this is a confession from Donald Trump. We know that he's a convicted felon 34 times over. He's got legal matters and criminal matters pending in states across this country, and I think he's just telling us that he knows he's a criminal and don't expect it to change. And then he goes on to refer to Kamala Harris as his next victim. This language struck me very oddly, I guess you could say. This type of language around your political opponent does not sit right with me for whatever reason. So let's go ahead and take a look at that really quick.
A fighter, he's losing. Then they took him out of the fight and they put a new fighter. We have a new victim now, Kamala. We have a new victim. We have a brand new victim. And honestly, she's a radical left lunatic. And
yeah, so like I said, this just does not sit right with me. Why would you refer to Kamala Harris as a victim? Victim of what? Are you planning on carrying out some sort of assault against her? Obviously, I'm not talking about that in the actual physical sense, but I just don't like this language. It kind of otherizes your opponent. Instead of looking at them like another human being, you're looking at them as something lesser than or smaller than. I'm just not digging this language from Donald Trump, and I think we should call it out because you don't hear Democrats talking about their political opponents like this. We call out things that are true, things that are right. We don't belittle our opponents, and we're certainly not making personal attacks on them, kind of like Trump does with every single person he comes into contact with. So let's go ahead and move on. He also says that Kamala Harris didn't pass her law exam. I don't know how that makes any sense at all, considering she was the Attorney General of California. She was a district attorney of San Francisco before that. So what is Trump talking about here? Why do they always have to lie? There is no fidelity to the truth anymore. They are more than happy with making things up just so it can create a narrative for people that follow Trump. I think this is unacceptable. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Together, and now we're replacing him with worse than he is, a dangerous person who's not smart. You know she couldn't pass a law exam, right? Have you heard that? These are minor details. She couldn't pass a bar exam. She took the bar exam. She couldn't pass it. She thought she'd never be able to pass it. This is what we have wanting to be our president.
So, like I said, this is just not true. Now, if he wanted to say that Kamala Harris didn't pass the bar exam the first time she took it, maybe I would give him a little bit more leniency then. But she took her bar exam in California. Only 45% of first-timers pass the bar exam in California. And overall, it has a 35% pass rate. So it's not uncommon for people to have to take their bar exam in California multiple times. This is also true with Kamala Harris, but she did end up passing the bar exam. That's how she was able to become a district attorney and an attorney general. She had to have her bar exam passed. She had to be a legitimate lawyer. But let's go ahead and move on from Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, sorry. We know that Trump has authoritarian tendencies, and I would put this next thing he says into that same camp when he tries to say that he wants to give police 100% immunity. Why would a dictatorial leader want his police to have complete immunity from any wrongdoing? Let's go ahead and take a look at what he said.
Would take what they make in 1 year, they'll take it out of their hides. You can't do that. We're going to give immunity to police so they can do their job. I'm giving federal immunity to police officers so they can do their job.
We already have problems with police in this country not being held accountable for either killing or assaulting people. Why would we go ahead and remove any other barrier to accountability by giving them full immunity? This does not make sense to me. I think this is a self-serving need that Trump wants to carry out. He wants to make sure that he can sick police on people he perceives as his enemies, and then there are no mechanisms for us to hold them accountable if they're 100% immune. I just think this is a very bad idea, and we should, like I said, we should be calling this stuff out. We hear it at every single rally. He's telling us what he wants to do. We need to believe him. And what's even more scary is Trump mentioned, I don't know if I would call this 100% new, but this is pretty new as far as his stump speech goes. He is now calling for mandatory prison sentences for people who burn the flag. Let's go ahead and take a look at what he said about that.
And we do not need more people who want to burn our flag. I watched yesterday and the day before, they're burning our American flag. And I said, I know they say it's unconstitutional. Well, make it not unconstitutional. You burn our American flag, you should get immediately mandatory 1 year in jail.
It makes it even grosser that everybody in the crowd seems to be applauding that. This is just un-American. Burning the flag is protected by the First Amendment of the United States. It is a free demonstration of speech. So if you're calling for people to be put in jail because you don't agree with the speech that they use, then what does that make you? This is just un-American. And I can't believe that so many in his crowd are cheering it along. This is not the place for you in America if you are wanting to lock people up for their speech. And it's quite ironic that these are the people who are constantly screaming about how First Amendment needs to be protected when they're calling on prison sentences for flag burners. This is absolutely insane and un-American. We cannot let Trump live this one down. This is totally antithetical to one of the main core principles in this country. And it has already been taken to the Supreme Court, and it is a protected act. So this is just quite crazy. Let's go ahead and move on. Trump goes on to say that he wants to build an iron dome over the United States. What is this dude even talking about? Let's take a look at what he said.
In my next term, we will build a great Iron Dome missile defense shield over our country, a dome like has never been ever seen before, and it will be entirely made in Minnesota and in the USA. It's going to be fully made in the USA, and Minnesota's got a big piece of it.
Okay, for a number of reasons, this just does not make sense in the United States. The reason Israel has something like the Iron Dome is because they are surrounded by people who are threats to their nation. The United States is not surrounded by people who wish to do us harm. We are surrounded by our allies, Mexico and Canada. Not to mention that the Iron Dome is meant to take care of short-range missiles. I don't know if he's thinking this is going to protect us against, like, intercontinental missiles or nuclear warheads, but I think he would be sorely mistaken. The Iron Dome and that type of technology is meant for short-range short-range stuff. So it's just absolutely insane that Trump is even calling for something like this. He clearly does not have a good understanding of what would be a good investment for our military here on the domestic front. So I just can't even believe that this guy is in serious consideration to be the next person in the White House. And then he goes on to say that he now wants to remove any federal funds from schools that have any sort of vaccine mandate. This is dangerous stuff.
And I will not give one penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate.
Again, this is just a terrible idea. We have vaccine mandates for a reason. Public health is important. If you let disease run rampant in our schools and those children then take it home to their parents, we have a major health crisis on our hands, a public health crisis. Now, if you want to debate where the line should be as far as which vaccine should be given on a mandatory basis, we should definitely have that conversation. Does it make sense for COVID-19 vaccines to be mandatory in schools? I don't know that I necessarily know the answer to that, but there is a discussion there worth having. But if you're going to tell me that we should stop mandating the polio vaccine, I would largely disagree with that. Wholeheartedly disagree with that, actually. And then to take it even further by saying he wants mask mandates to be lifted as well. First of all, where are mask mandates even in effect right now? And in the event of another pandemic, why would we just blanket say that masks should not be mandated in our schools? This makes absolutely no sense. This is dangerous for our nation. Up until now, we've had a pretty good handle on our public health, and there hasn't been a whole lot of unreasonable thought around mandating vaccines in schools. But ever since COVID came along, that conversation has changed, and it is absolutely dangerous for us to even consider lifting vaccine mandates for these very serious and deadly diseases. And with just one more video, of course it would not be a Trump rally unless he was talking crap about America. This is a staple of every single event Trump does. Let's go ahead and see what he has to say, even though you can probably already guess.
And they helped build this country into the single greatest nation in the history of the world. But now we are a nation in decline. We are a nation in decline. Can you believe we have to say that? We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has no respect around the world. They laugh at us. We are a nation that has lost its confidence, willpower, and strength. We are a nation that has quite simply lost its way. But we are not going to allow this horror to continue.
The same old stuff that we hear at every single Trump rally. The nation is in decline. We're a third world nation, as he would say. How is it that we have somebody who wants to be the president of the United States talking so poorly about America on a daily basis? Shouldn't our presidents be a cheerleader for our nation? Shouldn't they be building a vision for the future? We didn't get any of that from this Trump rally. I didn't hear a coherent vision for the future. I didn't hear about any policies that he wants to implement. This is all about fear-mongering and building a reality for his followers that does not exist. Are there problems in America? Yes. But after the COVID pandemic, we have the strongest recovery out of all other G7 nations. And that is something that Americans should be proud of. But instead we have Trump, a presidential candidate, going out there and just degrading and undermining all of the progress that we have made since he left office. And then, of course, he pairs that with "only I can fix it." This is standard authoritarian type language. Build a world that people are scared of. Build a world that people have uncertainty for. And then rise up on your pedestal and pretend like you are the only one that can make things right again. This is all we hear from Trump at his rallies. He is not laying out a vision for this country. And when he does, he talks about policy ideas that are not popular with the American people. So like I said, we need to call all this stuff out every single time it happens. I know some of these videos get repetitive because Trump spews the same tired talking points at every single rally. But I think it's important that we do not forget this is the guy on the other side of the ticket. This is the guy who wants to be president in 2024. And so we need to be out here doing the work to make sure that doesn't happen. So I will continue to cover these as much as my mind will allow. So that's going to do it for me on this one, folks. If you got anything out of this video, if you could remember to smash that like button and hit subscribe, maybe share it with a friend or two, I'd very much appreciate that. If you think I got something wrong, or if you disagree with me about something, feel free to drop a comment below. And if you want to learn about the competing visions between Trump and Kamala based on their recent campaign ads, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. And I will see you guys on the next one.